Wow. What a night. Oh man, I feel so lousy. Oh geez. And then waking up at midnight
No, it's okay.
to a baby, and then suddenly like all the emotions came flooding in. Oh my God, I'm so grateful she slept for a few hours. I'm so grateful my wife slept for a few hours. Oh shit. I saw all, I got up and saw all the messages because my phone had been in the other room, and I thought, oh fuck.
No, but it's okay. I mean, it's a good bunch of people. We're all in this together. We're learning.
Oh man.
And and how
Oh
did that
dear.
feel, Rocco? How did that feel uncomfortable?
Jesus, wow, yeah, that was some level of discomfort, and it was self-caused, and it had obvious, just innocent reasons and all the rest of it. But like in that moment, you just have to sort out this from that. I can't see. This is the old instinct I used to have, is to blurt something out, to something emotional, because I physically can't hold it, and then try and milk acceptance or forgiveness, which is often what apologies are these days. We can't get them off our chest quick enough because we don't want the feeling to last. This is a little bit.
Yeah, but
We
there's
want
a
the feeling
lesson
to go
here.
away immediately, and it's not often about reparations or acknowledging the disservice caused to somebody else. It's literally all this raw self empathy. So obviously, you watch that come up, and then all the thoughts and emotions. Like now, my wife's concerns. I've got to make sure I'm presenting a calm answer. Don't worry, I've got this. It's all okay. And then I look at all these messages, and people are going, "Oh my God, are you okay? Are you okay? Is this call starting?" And then you're playing the scenarios of their frustration and concern. And like, oh Jesus, how do I tell them? Fundamentally, I fell asleep. Um, anyway,
Yeah, but I
so it
mean,
was that.
that goes to show you can plan as much as you want. You had everything planned out. You've been preparing for this for the longest time.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
even then, things happen, things that are out
Yeah,
of our
yeah.
control, even though they feel they should
I
have been in our
know, I know,
control.
I know, I know. And I had such a great lesson planned, and it was such awesome momentum because people are doing their practices and filling it out on the sheet. And I've been reflecting about how beautifully this all came together. It came together quite organically. I just had a brain fart the one day. I said, right, okay, everyone, I'm doing this. And then everyone said, oh yeah, I want to do that. And it just became a thing, and it's lovely. Which is why after all the internal chatter dies down, I was reflecting. I really don't want this to impact anyone's confidence that this is a worthwhile exercise. And obviously, this can't happen again from me. It's something we planned for a whole week, and I really need to be available for that time. So I need
To
to,
be honest,
yeah.
we're all just happy you're okay,
No,
that
no,
the
no.
family's okay.
And I am fine. Look, it's incredibly rough. It's a long cause of chain and effect with the baby's health and sleep patterns, and how the knock-on of that has affected my wife's mental health as well. And she's just doing an incredible job, but no human being can do that on their own. And I'm running, the podcast, the page. I've got a bunch of clients that I'm taking through some challenging chapters in their own life, trying to compartmentalize space for my wife and my family as well, doing this program, getting up early, fasting, doing the cold showers and all the rest of it, writing the notes. I'm writing a book, and then I still work 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. So yeah, it's full on.
There's a lot on your plate, but we're all
Yeah,
in
but
this
I put it
together.
there, right? I put it there.
It's okay.
And half the reason that I don't want to just park anything is because I do feel the sense of urgency. As you know, as we've spoken about many times before, we're in a very uncomfortable place as a society. And what we're missing a lot of the time is sanity. We don't really have clear answers. The people that are putting themselves forward as influencers or teachers, they're not the best quality human beings all the time. All of our incentives are upside down. Our incentives to get attention, our incentives to speak, our incentives to listen, our incentives to even to find the path or find a path. That's usually it's done in the service of avoiding pain. So yeah, all of that sort of came home together. But what I'd like to do, Louise, just to frame for everybody that's gonna or may listen to this, is I reached out to you this morning. I want to cover some of the ground that I caused to be lost yesterday. I want to go over the highlights of the lesson. I want to reflect on some of the comments that I'm getting back from people, and just the sense that I'm picking up from the notes. So I really appreciate you making this time and jumping on board, because at this stage of tiredness and mental exhaustion, trying to hold the space for what you want to say and how it might be perceived is extremely difficult without somebody on a call. So because you and I have been friends for so long, I thought I'd reach out to you and drag you into my reparation efforts. So first of all, I'm going to be sending out week 2, the email, which is going to frame what the focus for week 2 is going to be. With practices like this, we're not the stance that we take towards the practice is extremely key, and it's tempting to come into this almost in a self-congratulatory way, to treat it like the ice bucket challenge and giggle and you know, get attention on ourselves for what we're doing. It's easy to make this a kind of fad that we want to tell everybody about, and none of these things in of themselves are wrong. But we do notice, if we inspect ourselves, that the reason we're doing things, this is a very private journey, which is why it's a closed group. It's a very private journey, and we can get witnessed by other people, and we should be witnessing ourselves. But to keep an aspect of sacredness across the whole thing, we've got to take a slightly more mature stance. And yet the irony is, it's something that's right in the middle, because we don't want to take it too seriously either. We don't want to treat ourselves and the practice as if it's something we can fail at. Because as soon as we introduce the concept of failure, we introduce fear. And we're playing here, but we're playing with the innocence of children, but we're not playing the way, this is not a TikTok video or an Instagram campaign to accrue attention. So it's something other than what we're being taught and showcased in every other aspect of our life. But as I say, no one else is coming. We have to become these leaders that we've been looking for in ourselves. And so it's encouraging to me that people are reflecting on their experiences and sharing with each other and sharing in the closed group, and there's a bit of encouragement and stuff going on. And I feel it's all a very, very healthy tone. It's all, from what I've seen, it's all landing really, really well. And I'm very proud of what everyone's doing, and they should be really proud of themselves. I have noticed not everybody's filling the sheet in. And there's a saying from Nick, you'll hear me talk with and about Nick from time to time. He says, what you don't measure, you can't manage, because you can't, it's what you don't measure, you can't improve, because you can only manage something that you're measuring, because you can only tell true delta from one day to the next by stuff like that. So people, we get into relationships and it feels all excited and giddy, and the butterflies are all there, and we go from like baseline level 0 up to 20, and then when these chemicals wear off, we come down to 15, and we can't tell that we're still 15 up. All we can tell is the drop from 20 down to 15, and it feels like a negative delta of 5. And if we were discerning and measuring our baselines, our dopaminergic urges, our serotonin, our oxytocin, our endorphins. If we had all these 4 buckets in play, not just the one bucket, and something dropped, and we were measuring our mood, and we had a mindfulness reflection on where we are and how we normally feel, and what does this mean, and a sense of discernment about this, we wouldn't just read the -5, we would read, okay, this is still way above baseline, I'm still good. Now, for that reason, that's why we got to track these things. If there's any discipline to be had in this entire thing, it's the tracking, it's the reflection, it's the honest look back as to how I'm feeling about this. And it's great that everyone's sharing. I think it's so beautiful. Like, I saw you out there kayaking. What a beautiful morning that was.
Yeah, I
Everyone
started
was still
waking up
and
early.
smiles on their faces. It's great. Do you not normally get up early?
Not that early, not before sunrise typically. But it
How's
made
that?
for good cold showers. In the morning, we have a pool, and the pool's freezing. So in the morning, so
You
that
just
was
use that.
good ice, not ice, but cold
It's
water
pretty damn
immersion.
cold, yeah. And how's that working out for you? How's the experience?
It's been good. Okay, so I never fasted intentionally, so that was interesting. I forgot about so I started fasting at night, and then the next day I forgot I was fasting, and I'm doing something. I'm working, and I'm really hungry. I'm gonna go eat. Wait, I'm fasting. Oh, this is what hunger feels like. Okay, okay,
Right.
I can sit with this discomfort. Yeah, you feel your
Yes.
stomach squeezing you, and then you're like, okay, and you push through that discomfort, and then you're on the other side where it's like, oh, okay, it was just a little hurdle of discomfort,
Exactly.
and
Exactly. It's not, you're not going to die. And we act as if we're going to die if we don't immediately have a nutritive snack, and yet we're carrying more than enough body fat to survive several days, in fact.
yeah, I've been notoriously one of those people that gets hangry, a little angry
Yeah,
when
yeah,
they're
yeah,
hungry,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
actually understanding that feeling and being okay with it is very rewarding.
Good. And
So,
so you've did that last week.
yes,
Okay,
and
so the practices were supposed to be get as many cold showers in, many meditation sessions. And I know I don't need to press you to do meditation, but it's
yeah,
probably nice to have some way to direct all your mindfulness practice at,
absolutely, it's
because
more with an intention.
you're quite advanced in that area, whereas other people were already doing the ice baths, or some people already fasting, but no one was doing all three. And it's very interesting that we choose the ice bath and the fasting. So we didn't start there by accident. So if you think of the Indian system of chakras, moving from the bottom, the root sacral one, up to the groin, the stomach, the heart, the throat, the head, and then the crown, we don't have to believe in mystical energy centers in our body, but it is a very useful way to consider how the human consciousness is embodied in our body, because our experience is an experience of embodiment. And the root is the root of fear. It's our connection to nature, and through the motivational triad, avoid pain, seek pleasure, conserve energy. The first one is avoid pain, which is the avoidance of injury, which is the avoidance of death. And seek out pleasure, because it's the only way by which the species will survive and the individual will survive, by getting food. So we start at the very bottom one. So the first thing you need to do with this system is you need to start in the heart. You need to open your heart. And that means having a loving stance towards the practice that you're going to do. It's not some mystical thing of just sitting in the mat and pretending your heart is open. It is an intentionality, a very practical intentionality. Start in the heart. Start from love, not from fear. Set an intentionality. I'm doing this so that I can be a better person, so that I can better steward this garden that I've been putting care of. A lot of young people today are trying to solve the world out there, not realizing that this is the garden that we need to begin with. and they're not weeding their own garden, they're not tending their own garden, so it becomes overgrown and choked out and all the rest of it. And every discomfort they feel inside, they turn outwards and try and solve that problem, try to solve other people, try to tell other people how other people should call them, what words they should use, who should be doing what, how government should be. And I think it's fantastic to get there, but this is where to begin for everyone. So we begin with this practice, opening from the heart, and then directing our consciousness and our stillness towards a fear impulse that is naturally going to arise. Naturally going to arise. The reason we're using cold water, there's nothing mystical about cold water. Physically, it can give us the control and allow us to reduce our cortisol levels and increase our dopamine tonic baseline. It just has that effect. But that's not purely what we're doing it for. We're doing it to create a fear response, a fear stimulus, and then shine the light of consciousness down there. And what Jung was talking about, shadow work, was not having darkness in you or not having shadow in you. It was shining the light of consciousness into those places and bringing them into the light so that you can become a fully integrated human being. Moving up from there is the sex one. Now, we don't need to deal with that's a different level of practices. But the one up from that is the stomach, the inner child, the nurturing center. And to take that need away on purpose, and then to sit with the inner child through that. This is a practice of inner child work by leading the child through the door of voluntary vulnerability. And this is so important because this is, of course, where our first wounds as a child arrive, in the only place they can arrive, which is this utmost helpless vulnerability of childhood, where you do have no boundaries, no means, no context, no predictive model of the world. You're just purely at the mercy of what happens to you. So the act of doing this voluntarily is an act of strength. It's an act of self-ownership. It's an act of self-love. It's an act of training the animal that cold showers aren't going to undo you, that going without a meal isn't going to undo you, and then reassuring the inner child that it's okay, we've got this. We're stronger than this. We're stronger than the need for one meal. We're stronger than the need to run away from all discomforts. We've got this. 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 So now we're building on this practice. And mindfulness really is the salt on the meal. It's the thing that makes everything land, taste better, have a sense of exactly, allow for the integration to happen. And the reason why we track our stuff in the sheet is for us to be able to look back at what we achieved and what we did and what we did and didn't do. And it's like, oh yeah, this is I have marshaled my life. I have deliberately curated how my mind is going to go, how my relationship to myself is going to go. I've got the reins here. It's very important to reflect back and look on this. So I urge everybody, if you're not doing it, get on top of that. You don't have to have perfect scores. Don't feel ashamed about putting a 0 in some days. That is the facing of yet other discomfort, because part of our comfort is our social esteem and the validation we get from other people. And you are in a safe group of people who are human beings. I fell asleep last night instead of attending a call that I had set up with 12 people waiting for me. So we face discomforts, and we are human, and you don't need to be perfect. This was never about perfection. It was never about perfection. It's about accountability and facing it. So please start filling in the sheets. Now, there was a little slot for Saturday and Sunday, and it was to do with beginning to curate your feeds. And I sent you out an email with some details of what you were going to do. And I was hoping to start fielding some questions, because that's really going to be the subject of this upcoming week. It's going to be cleaning our digital diet. So we are like fish. There's a beautiful story of fish swimming, and they're talking shit about this and that. And then old fish comes the other way and goes, "Hey, good morning, boys. How's the water this morning?" And they look at each other and they go, "Water? What's water?" when you're in a medium and you're awash in it, you don't realize the effect it has. You don't realize where it ends and you begin, and vice versa. And you are unconsciously integrating things, or have things integrated on your behalf that you did not choose. There's no selection, there's no discernment, it's just coming your way. So there's forms of escapism, there's genuine entertainment, there is pornography, there is these attention capture, there's forms of getting attention, weighing in on conversations, feeling terribly clever, getting into outrageous arguments, getting into meaningless arguments, just pumping other people's tires and telling them how amazing and beautiful and wonderful their lives look on celluloid. The selfies that you delete are the real you. These apps and things, we didn't exist with them before. We didn't have them. We didn't have this digital crack cocaine with us all the time. And it's not the best way to curate our own minds. Now, we can't be idealistic and not have phones, because so much of our connection happens via these mediums. 2 years ago, 5 years ago, you could not scroll as much as you scroll now and still be normally functioning. You would have lost your mind. But your brain has adapted, your mind has adapted, your consciousness has adapted. That's what it does, it adapts. But it has adapted in an unconscious way. You did not choose the adaptation that happened. You just got drawn along by the excitement of the app and the moment and the content and this video and the streaming services. And now there's Netflix and Hulu and Amazon and Disney Plus and YouTube Red and Stan and I'm probably not even mentioning all of her binge. The list just goes on and 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 on. So what's the definition of pornography? Aside from the illicit side of it, it's an illusion. There's two people that are supposedly having this intimate moment. They are actors. This person is pretending to have the best time. This person is pretending to be having the best time. They're pretending that a camera is not there watching them. They're pretending to do things that no sane human beings would do without feeling self-conscious or silly. And then we're watching this with a suspension of disbelief and pretending that we're also pretending that the camera, and they're not actors and all the rest of it. Now, a suspension of disbelief in a movie is fantastic because it allows you to become immersed in the moment. But all of our activity online, watching the UFC now with all the shit talking, that's become pornographic. They're not really angry at each other. They're pretending to be angry at each other in the pre-fight bitching and moaning sessions to generate emotion so that you can pick a side, which is the classic trope at the moment, is get into this faction or that faction, and then argue about it on the internet and stay connected to the platform, pay more money so the price of the ticket can go up, or everyone who's like on the fence is now no longer on the fence. They galvanize to make sure they want to watch that UFC fight. The TikTok videos, the lurid content on Instagram, there is no discernment. We're not taking any of this on. The arguments that are being fermented in politics, all of this is dress-ups. It's a dress-ups that we are failing to discern, that we're the fool of the piece. Because when a product is free, you are the product. Tristan Harris, one of his famous quotes, I'm going to paraphrase, goes something along the lines of, we've all been waiting for this moment where artificial intelligence, technology, our clever computers are going to outstrip all human strengths and capabilities. They're just going to outperform us by orders of magnitude. And this is called the singularity, when AI becomes cleverer than humans. Now, we have intelligence that's cleverer than humans. So you get a computer that can play chess better than you, or play Go better than you, or detect the signs of hypoglycemia better than you, or onset of Parkinson's 6 months out by looking at various metrics. That's specific narrow intelligence. And what we're talking about when we talk about AI is general intelligence, the ability to have conversation with a machine where it can convince you that it is a human being in a way that you cannot discern. So if you are in a text type with a bot and you were absolutely convinced that this is a human being with personality, warmth, intrigue, idiosyncrasies, then we would slowly start getting there. And it's not just the only measure of artificial general intelligence isn't just being able to convince a human being that it's a human. It's being able to make decisions quicker, more rapidly, do things faster, quicker, without all the logical fallacies that we have now. We're very imprecise at our way of thinking, imprecise at our way of reaching conclusions. We jump to conclusions. Our brains are actually devices for confusion. Con means to bring two parts together, and we know what fuse means. It's a confusion of our left and our right brain, my camera, of our masculine and our feminine, of our remembered self and our experiencing self, of our ideal self and the one that pitches up on the day, of the animal, the child, the monkey mind, and the adult somewhere over here, of all the voices in our head, the child's voice, the animal's voice, the voice of the protector / critic that's trying to keep us safe and chattering in our heads all the time, and the voice of the victim when those other voices have not been heard. Your brain confuses sensations with story. It joins everything together so that you can feel like this contiguous self, and you can have a sense of, oh, I am the same me that I was yesterday and the same me that I was 5 years ago. This is my thing. This is my jacket. This is my hat. I'm speaking into my camera. That's my wife. It helps us survive, and it helps the organism survive. But unfortunately, what it also does is whatever we take on board in our predictive model, we believe. We believe everything that we believe. And so we're waiting for this moment, as Tristan Harris said, where when you're going to look at marvel at this wonder that we create when artificial general intelligence outstrips human strengths and capabilities. But what we've missed is this moment that already came to no applause, where technology didn't outstrip or supersede human intelligence and strengths, but undermined human weaknesses. Our cognitive biases, our inability to think critically about certain things, our inability to take a step back and realize that we're being emotionally triggered in a moment, or that we're addicted to a game or addicted to a streaming service, or every time we feel even the slightest discomfort, we reach for our phones and start scrolling. And then
would you agree that nobody's immune to that? That everybody has the capacity, the possibility of falling trapped to that?
All the time. Walking through a shopping mall, sitting down at a dinner, reading things on the menu. There's this thing called priming and framing. Consciously, all the time, you're picking up stimulus. And I have a quote that says, when the door is locked fast, both the thief and the benefactor need to come into the house through the window. When you're not consciously keeping the door, what comes in through your windows that you're not paying attention to, sensation, mood, feel, vibration, visual impact, story, context, you're picking this up all the time. And so you are the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most. You are a different person when you've had good night's sleep or bad night's sleep. There is a thing called disconnection syndrome. So you've got a prefrontal cortex and you've got an amygdala, the lizard animal brain. And the animal brain is the fear processing center. It's fight, flight, instant gratification, immediate narrow concern of self. And the prefrontal cortex is the thing that moderates against that. It's the thing that lets you start a spin class and endure discomfort for 30 minutes because you're telling yourself, rationalizing that this is good for you and you're going to do something. It's the one we bring online when we do the cold shower. It's the one that moderates the fear when we are fasting. Right? So, and everybody has that. And you have one meal of junk food or one bad night of sleep, and the mechanism, the pathway for these two to connect is compromised, and therefore everybody is susceptible to that. You have, when I said to us we should try and make sure we do things for no longer than 90 minutes at a time, these ultradian cycles, they're these wavelengths, these packets of distribution of metabolic energy, glucose to the brain, ability to focus, all of the correct dopamine and epinephrine levels, our adrenaline levels, all these things that are contributing to us to be able to focus and get something done in a moment, they have tides and seasons, and they cannot exist at peak for longer than 20 minutes. And the whole bell curve is 90 minutes. And then at the bottom ebb, you're not your best self. You're just not your best self. It's just that's life. So everybody is susceptible to this. So what we need to do, as always, is we need to give ourselves good chance of succeeding. So if I wanted to conquer the proverbial mountain of spirituality, right, I can't go up the mountain and stay up there. I'll die. So I have to conquer it once, at great effort, to prove to myself I can do it. But then I've got to come back down to the valley to acclimatize, where it's warm, where I can get food, where I can thaw out. And it's dangerous on that precipice. It's very dangerous if you haven't built the skills. So let's explore that metaphor. But sometimes we need to build a log cabin just above the tree line.
Something that comes to mind too.
Yeah.
That does. If you do all these things and you do the work, and you work on yourself, and you do motivated, that doesn't define you as a good person or a bad person, right? That this is beyond that. This is
completely unrelated to moral rectitude or social value or anything like that. However, we do find that when we practice stillness, and we practice self-awareness, and we practice self-ownership, people like that do tend to have a better chance of being easier to get along with, and greater levels of self-control, and less likely to push their crap onto other people. The point is, we only know what we know. And when we are trapped in cycles that we are not aware of, or we're being gamed, or our weaknesses are being undermined in a way that we're not conscious of. So very, 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 very deliberately, all the platforms on this device have been, for the last 30 years, they've been hiring psychologists, behavioral psychologists, to influence how the user interface is designed, to the point where if you're scrolling after a tweet or after an Instagram post, the amount of likes you got doesn't come up immediately. The post comes up, and then just a few split seconds later, that metric will be revealed. That is literally to get the level of expectation in your psychology up, and then reward you. And that is the same as casinos, the way they set the slot machines to keep people pushing the buttons and keep gambling. So that is one tiny example. The information that they're gathering off you is called big data. When you compare somebody's search results with their mood, what they're searching about, the temperature at the moment, the weather, whether they're traveling, whether they're Googling things about, whether their conversation, because everything is being picked up, is aggressive, or certain keywords are being used, and you eventually compare all of this with you and 7 billion of your closest friends, they can start telling things about human behavior that doesn't require a psychologist with a pencil going, so I can see that this is happening. We are telling on ourselves all the time. And when you're telling on yourself and you're in this mood, and then you click the advert quicker, they remember that. So then it becomes important to get you into this frame of mind. So this, they just picked up originally by accident, that these cause of events led you more susceptible to online shopping. Now, if we can get you there, that means you'll be more susceptible. So how do we get you there? And so through a list of bad incentives, they didn't have to be evil. They just had to be ignorant. Apply their intelligence in a very ignorant, narrow-minded, selfish way. And now we have all of us being the product. So it's very important for us to take sovereignty of our consciousness back. We can't be experts and understand exactly what's at play, what's at risk, how's it working. There's too much movement. No one can become an expert, but what you can do is you can create some space for yourself. So I send out an email, delete the apps you don't use, remove yourself from group chats you're not actually in, unfriend people who are not actually your friends. You don't have to be rude to pleasant acquaintances. Some people add value in my life. They send me poignant jokes, or they remind me of certain things, or they're harmless in my life. We're not the closest, but it's genuinely a net positive engagement. Most of the political shit we're arguing about, we can't control. The world doesn't really need our opinion. Most of the opinions out there are misinformed. Our ability to understand and interpret statistics and news is terrible. It is absolutely terrible. At least 80% of all the hype and all the tension and all the drama is because somebody's sitting with an absolute truth here that someone over here says is bullshit, and someone's sitting with an absolute truth here that someone over here says is bullshit. The point is, there's an element of truth here that has been misinterpreted, and there's an element of truth here that's been misinterpreted, and their inability to understand that any human being can be wrong, or that medical journals can be skewed, or that headlines can be selective, or that all of news is carefully edited, or that it's all a combination of various things. Confirmation bias. If I hear enough people around me saying things that I agree with, I'm inclined to agree. If I wake up one morning as a Republican and I realize that I'm actually pissed off with something that one of my leaders said and did, I daren't say that, because to say that in an audience where people are not emotionally intelligent or not aware of how they're gamed, and this happens on left and right, the incentive for me to just believe things that are not really worth believing is high, because the emotional, esteem, social cost of not doing that would be too great to bear. And so we get what we incentivize for. And in moments like that, we can't save everything and save everyone. And you don't, when moments of drama or calamity or challenge come, you don't you don't rise to the level of your expectation. You fall to the level of your preparation. And so we prepare. That's what we do mindfulness practices. That's what we do discomfort practices. We're getting used to just being still in that moment, because a moment will come when you're emotionally galvanized and you want to choose this or that. And that's the time to go, hold a second here. Actually, I'm going to bow out. Actually, I'm going to just delete this. Actually, I'm going to say something calm, kind, and intelligent. Actually, I'm going to say something calm, kind, intelligent, and I'm going to remove myself from this conversation. Or I'm not really going to follow this because this keeps happening. Because now I can reflect back the way I do with my scores on the sheet. And I can say, this is actually not good for me. It's not working for me. So unfriend, unfollow, untag, clean up. What am I following? What am I a member of? What am I joined into? What groups am I getting bombarded with? And you will notice when you do that, Facebook and Instagram send you more ads and more ads and more ads and more ads and more ads. And eventually you are barely browsing, because you just realize it is a fucking orgy of influence and advertising and noise and mess. And I still use Instagram. I still use Facebook very sparingly. Not because
That's how we all came together.
Exactly. Not because
we wouldn't all be here.
Yeah. And I'm not using it sparingly
It has
because
utility.
I'm better than anyone. It's because I'm afraid of what will happen when I don't. And I'm not.
But there is utility. There is.
Of course.
The original intention was to bring people together, and obviously that's how it started. And look at us now.
Now,
which is exactly what you're saying.
Yes, and now our human weaknesses, just the ways in which we don't always think critically, is being gamed, and we're not the benefactors of that game. So you don't have to be a conspiracy theorist. This is just fact. You can go and watch Tristan Harris's documentary called The Social Dilemma. It's very informative, and it'll tell you what the nature of the problem is. Just the mere fact that you're addicted to the phone is something that means it's something you want to address. The quality of light shining in your eyes, Remember I said you can go out and watch a sunset, because then you trigger those certain receptors in your sockets that have nothing to do with seeing. They just have to do with setting your metabolism to start slowing down. This counters that. So we need to find ways of managing that now. So curating the feed, curating that whole experience, maybe going to go choose certain things that are uplifting, enlightening, go and find other things to do with our attention. Be okay with being uncomfortable or anxious or bored in a moment. Boredom is discomfort. We have never suffered boredom. All we have suffered is the fear of boredom. And that's the point of meditation sometimes, just to sit with this moment. So we're going to build on the first practice, and we're going to build something on top of that. And this is going to become, this was the animal and the child, and now we're going to take over the monkey mind. We're going to fix that. And it's the expressive part, the throat, and the mind. Because that's what we do on social media, but we do it without heart and without consciousness. And we do it because we're triggered. So we're going to change all of that. So now we're building on our practice. So what we're going to do is we're going to set ourselves a time in the evening when we put our phone down and we don't go back to it. So it's challenging for me because I've got clients. I'm in Australia and my clients are in South Africa, Europe, America. So I have to attend calls, but aside from those calls, I'm going to put my phone down from 8 o'clock at night. No social media. I'm going to do my posts and that's it. Because I have to post after 8 o'clock. Otherwise, Instagram doesn't show them to you. So I've curated my feed, and this practice now is going to continue the earlier practices from last week. And now we're going to restrict ourselves from posting anything that isn't relevant or intelligent or kind. It's not just sugar water kind either, because the world doesn't really need more noise. It doesn't need more tiny Buddha posts. It really doesn't. It really, really doesn't. It doesn't need every single moment of our day, our life, our thoughts, some proof of a projected life we're trying to showcase. It doesn't need that on our story. It doesn't. It really, really doesn't. The noise that we're inundated with, we can no longer blame other people for. We are the generators of the noise. Our comments, the world is not richer for our 10 cents comment on the article or our sharing of something. Let's just, for this week, just generate less noise. Be less affected by the noise. Set limits on ourselves. And the other practice we're going to do, if anybody wants to join me, is I don't pick up my phone and do anything before I've done my meditation. Because if your brain is active enough to do that, your brain is active enough to meditate. So, no phone after 8. Best don't even have it around you. I don't know how you're going to deal with the alarm situation, so maybe put it on airplane mode or whatever the case. Use your brain again. So if you're an emergency worker or you have to be on standby, you have to make your choices. No, I'm not going to be prescriptive with this with anyone. I'll put all these notes in the email. Don't pick up the phone and do socials and texting and emails and shit like that before you've meditated in the morning. And then reduce the amount of noise coming your way and reduce the amount of noise you generate. And just do that mindfully. If you're struggling with that, there's an app you can use on the phone. It's already on the phone. I think it's called Screen Time. And the reason Screen Time is so helpful is it tracks when you are on, how long you were on for, and what you were doing. And in terms of us filling out that sheet, it's the equivalent of that of the phone, because you will unconsciously find yourself getting into an elevator, sitting on the toilet, just walking between meetings, and you come to consciousness and you realize that you're doing this. You didn't do it. It just got done. So the Screen Time app is a way to track what we're doing. So we can look at it and reflect and go, wow. It's the same as putting those spending trackers on your bank account. Yeah, I'm just going to get a latte quickly. I'm just going to get and have a smash. I'm just going to quickly get this. I'm just going to buy something off Amazon. I'm just going to get this app. And then it's all fun and games. And you look at your bank account, where did all the money go? And then this little thing is showing you in graphical format. Well, that's how much you're spending on groceries, on food, on medicine, on entertainment, on sport, on whatever it is. But we can't improve what we're not measuring. So if you feel that this exercise is going to get the better of you, I strongly recommend you implement Screen Time on your phone. And you watch at the end of that week or at the end of each day. Wow, this is how much this device actually has me captured.
Absolutely. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
And that comes to mind when you see somebody scrolling mindlessly on their phone or playing those, I forget what is the Candy Crush game, things that are just mind numbing. You look at them and you just think, oh my God, that's such a waste of time. What are they doing? And then you are doing the same thing different, something else.
Just not in a game, yes, you're playing a greater game where you are
something
a moving
else.
piece. Yeah.
Yeah, and we don't notice it because, like you said, we're in it. And all of this brought to mind something that you mentioned when we talked about the vaccine hesitancy, about people that, oh, some people are afraid, or I was afraid, because it changes, you don't know what's going on and changes your DNA. And then you said everything changes what you're doing, everything you consume.
Everything.
So this practice is about being mindful about what we're consuming. And the only way to do it is with facing it head on, the way you're
those cold showers
proposing
are changing our physiology. They are. Because if you're still developing, any part of you is still developing, to be awash with stress hormones and cortisol all the time, that rewires your brain for stress. You are changing on a molecular and a cellular level. It's having a change on you. What you watch, if we become the average of the people we hang out with the most. We start to think like them. We start to value what they value. Everything changes us. And vaccine hesitancy, yes, you should be mindful of what you're putting in your body. But there's not all fears are the same. Not all dangers are the same. They're just not. And if anyone's telling you that they are, they're confused. They're confused. And because they cannot read information clearly and correctly and interpret it clearly and correctly. And we can't trust the people telling us what to believe because they have got bad incentives. So the best thing you can do is become still, apply more discernment, make sensible choices, get advice from people that you trust, not from some bearded, angry, screaming guy on the internet. How could we can't do this? We just cannot do it. And I don't know. I do not know. I'm not an epidemiologist. I do not know what the actual answer is, but I know what the sensible answer is. I know what the sane answer is. And I'm not going to buy into fear mongering. I don't even know that I'm right. I believe I'm right. Otherwise I wouldn't do it. But I believe I'm right based on an actual understanding of medical journals and statistics, an actual understanding of, yes, the doctors and the medical scientists have been poorly incentivized, but that doesn't mean everything that they're telling you is hokum. Yes, there are social injustices in this world, but that does not mean that there's not been improvement in the world. One thing I often say is if you take a woman, America, or a black person in America, or a Hispanic person in America, or a gay person in America, or a trans person in America, and you say to them, which point in history would you like to go back to where you feel the light of social consciousness is beautifully shone on your concern of choice? What are they gonna? Which wonderful time in our golden past are they going to ask to go back to?
Sensible person would say now.
Now, because as bad as it is an improvement, and that means don't overlook that it is an improvement. And the only way we can do that is if we're not raw emotionally. Everybody thinks to be an empath or to have empathy is this golden prize somehow. It's not. Empathy can very often be doing nothing more than feeling somebody else's feelings as your own. Dimna hasn't had a lot of sleep, my wife. And then this disconnection syndrome happens and her amygdala is firing and her mother instincts and hormones are going berserk and she can see her baby suffering. And so she overthinks everything and she's trying to reach in there. And it gets to the point where her better self is kind of slowly leaving the room for the state of raw empathy. And now they are both suffering. She's not always in that full, like sleep exhausted, sleep deprived mania, able to go, no, hold on. I can see that she's struggling, but this is still the best thing to do. I'm just going to stick with this. Because it's the most human thing on earth to go, oh my God, the baby's suffering. This is ache. This is killing me inside. I need to. And then now there are two people suffering, just raw suffering. And we don't make our best decisions from that place. She says to me often, like, I've got to just step back sometimes. I've got to just find my stillness. And she says, the cold baths are helping. And, I thought I was too tired to meditate, but I'm too tired to not meditate. That old saying that says, if you can't afford 10 minutes a day to meditate, you should find 20 minutes a day to meditate, because it's the stillness that you're missing. You're not running out of time, you're running out of space. And we create space for ourselves through mindfulness and stillness.
Yeah.
And so it's a living example, watching it play out, of two people that I love. And then the risk then is in that moment, because this is life, right? It's not because anyone's dysfunctional. This is just life. That I'm watching these two play that out. And I arrive like from work or from a meeting or something like that. And then I go, oh my God, my first instinct. Oh, I want to help. I want to do something. And I misapply it, and I misapply what I'm supposed to be doing, not because my heart's not in the right place, but because my head's not in the right place. I'm all raw empathy, and I just want to make the pain go away because I'm suffering. And being a spiritual or a psychological adult is not, as I said, to be of legal drinking age. It's to look at discomfort and suffering in others and look at it reflected in you and realizing this, you cannot love and not feel pain. You cannot. There's no magic life formula where the people around you are not going to struggle or suffer. And so then to choose this little gap, as Viktor Frankl said, like the space that exists between, impulse and reaction. And then that space is where you can start determining your response, and your response is where you start exploring your power. And that is literally the purpose of mindfulness and all these practices we do. We're practicing to not be empathetic. We're practicing to be compassionate. Because compassion comes from the heart space in stillness. Empathy is just a raw attenuation to whatever is happening, and then almost like getting sucked into it. And then if you watch very carefully, when everyone's raw and emotional, we're all trying to like rescue each other and trigger each other, and it doesn't get better, it gets worse. I don't know if anyone's ever watched teenage girls dealing with an emotional trauma. Somebody says something to the one girl, or the teacher was unkind to them, or the boy breaks up with them or something. And they form these, like, if you could watch it 2D from the top, as if it was just like a little square playing field, and you would just see dots moving around. They form these little clutches, and they amp each other up, and then this clutch breaks off, and then someone is also emotional, so they say something which then offends this one, and then this one takes it out too much, and this one understands, because you can't blame Becky because she needs to get said this, and then Tamara is very wounded, and then so and so runs off with Tamara, and they go cry in the bathroom together. I'm not belittling their pain, but they are not helping each other. They literally energize and they run around, not unlike if you watch a bunch of 10-year-olds playing football, soccer.
Yeah.
They don't have everybody on their own position playing to their strengths. There's just 20 children all running around.
But returning to the teenager girls, a phrase that's been super popular, and I think it's already out of fashion. I don't know, I'm old now. But it was, I can't even. So they can't even understand the emotions. It's just an overwhelming sensation of emotion. Yes. I can't even. Yes. So they'd rather just not deal with it and close off stuff.
And we can take the piss out of them, but then we realize we're doing that.
Absolutely.
We're
in a
doing
different
it all
manner.
the time. We're doing it in our social interactions online. We're doing it in just every time you are triggered to a state of raw empathy, where you're desperate for whatever it is to stop, is the birthplace of control, of anger, of our worst behaviors towards each other and ourselves, because we're so disarmed by the discomfort of the moment that we just want it to stop, and we use whatever bad modality we learned unconsciously through the windows of childhood that we've now programmed ourselves with, or have been programmed into us. And the only way we reprogram ourselves is by this creation of space and deciding how we would want to be in the moment, bringing the best version of ourselves into the room again, and again, and again, and again. So, and then hopefully we get to a point where we can book Zoom calls and arrive at them in time. Oh, that was bad. Oh, it was bad.
No, but it was good for everybody, and a good learning experience and growing together.
It was so sweet. I really appreciate that.
Oh, we were all there on the chat, and it just seemed like we all wanted
what
to
did you guys cover,
share. And well, we all talked about our experiences with some of us. Just like you mentioned at the beginning, some people had been meditating for years. Other people had been practicing cold showers, and other people had been fasting, and it was nothing nothing discomforting. But the other part, so it was bringing it all together at the same time. And what kind of came to mind is how some people are very active and always doing things. So for those people, maybe the cold showers isn't a big deal, but meditating, now that settling, that's going to be a little hard. And the other way around, people that have been meditating for a while, but actually getting active and doing something like that's actually uncomfortable, like cold showers, that's difficult. So what you chose really brings everything together. And so we got to talk about our experiences with each of the challenges that you've brought.
That's really lovely. It's really, really good. I think that pretty much wraps it up. Luis, I'm going to send out the email. I really appreciate you making the time, and it's made it so much easier to share the lesson and what we're doing.
No, it's great.
And I won't cock it up again. I'll be there again, same time next week. I will actually be there this time. Yeah, it was an interesting little experiment. I think it will become something fun. We can all laugh and talk about it.
It's okay if you don't make it. Nick and I will take over. Don't worry.
Yeah.
No, we'll see.
Was Nick there?
No. But he texted. He sent a message afterwards.
Oh, bless. Okay. Such a fool. When I first met my wife, I used to be trying to do something in the kitchen, and I go, "Oh, you're such a freaking idiot," to myself. And she was, "Oh, how can you talk about yourself so negatively?" I said, "Man, trust me, I've got this. I'm not down on myself, but when I do well, I go, man, what a great job! Like, you freaking crushed it." But when I cock something up, I just go, oh, what a tool. But I'm not lost in that. I'm not down on myself. But I find it quite freeing, actually.
Yeah, I
Just
can see that. But it was a funny feeling to be in the room waiting, 10 minutes in, and you know the meeting hasn't started, and then everybody's commenting, and I'm just thinking, Rocco's going to come on and say, how uncomfortable? Was this uncomfortable for
oh
all of you?
yes, I had this wonderful plan in
This was all on purpose.
Oh my God, what a tonsil. Yeah, sorry about that. Okay.
That would have been funny, but
Yeah.
thank you, Rocco. Thank you for this, and we'll
Thank
keep
you for
on
stepping up and organizing
together.
a call in my absence. Yeah, we've got to have a plan B. So if something does happen, because anything can happen, what I'll maybe do is we can set up a protocol where probably you will be the other one with a Zoom account, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll talk about it, and
Okay.
but we'll talk about it, and we'll see. But
Okay,
thank you,
well,
Rocco.
thank you. I hope everybody enjoys this recording and brings you all up to speed with what we're going to practice. So I might update I'll just put all the practices in the email that's coming up, and I encourage everyone to start tracking your activity in the sheets. I'm loving the interaction and engagement on the Telegram group. I have put the invitation to the Telegram group in the last couple of emails. I'll just keep adding that. That's really the safest place to come together and chat and share and talk and all the rest of it. So thanks again, Louise. Thanks for stepping up last night. Sorry again to everybody for wasting your time a little bit. And I hope that this video can do something to cover the ground that we lost, and we can pick it up. I always say, simply begin again. We just start from where we are with what we have. Simply begin again. Okay.